Shanna here, welcoming you to another episode of Worthy Asian, a safe space to talk about generational trauma, Asian parenting styles, and finding our way to healing and knowing our worth. This week, we're continuing our conversation around complicated relationships with our parents, and talking about a phrase you may hear a lot, either from them or others, that they did the best they could. Before I started therapy, I really thought I had accepted this notion. I moved on with my life. I had a neutral relationship with my parents. And up until the event that sparked my realization for need of therapy in 2021, details to follow as it'll relate to another episode topic, I found myself enraged at this idea that my parents did the best they could. How could their abusive behaviors possibly be the best they could do? I was livid. I felt there was no way, absolutely no way, that I could be moved from this position. I felt that saying that phrase and believing that phrase invalidated my experience, my pain. I've been processing this for pretty much a year now. And I can say I have shifted, but I am not fully there at accepting this one quite yet. I can understand they lived in a different time, had different resources. They're working with what they had, and perhaps what they had wasn't very much. I get that. I get that for the beginning of them raising us, mistakes were made. Yes, that's normal. But as we got older and time went on, and they had different resources, surely they could see, feel, know that things were not okay. Surely there were opportunities for change and growth. Surely their best could have expanded. And that's where I struggle. In my house, it was chaos. It was loud. There were tears and bruises and scars and cries for help. And I'm not talking about like silent cries where you hide in the corner of your bedroom by yourself. I'm saying that my parents knew. They knew they were hurting me. And as I got older, we tried some counseling, but it never went anywhere because they weren't able to admit any fault, any wrongdoing. They were unable to make changes because they would say, "This is who I am. I can't change." But there I am thinking, is it not normal to assume that if you know your actions are hurting someone you supposedly love, then you would try to change that behavior, no? If you know what to do but you don't do it, is that really you doing your best? If you have the opportunity for change and you don't take it, is that really you doing your best? Maybe they didn't have the resources back then, but there's definitely resources now. And it's never too late to start working on yourself. It's never too late for change. So that's hard for me to swallow because they still won't do it. And I'm struggling to not make that situation their personal life and personal choice. I'm trying not to make that about me. But that's hard because I feel like if you loved me, you would choose to work on things, wouldn't you? If you really wanted to, you would. And then I get stuck thinking they're choosing their pride over me. They're choosing saving face over me. And that I'm not worth trying to change for, that I'm not a priority. You can't make anyone do anything they don't want to. So, conclusion then is they don't want me? But who am I to say that they're not trying? I only have my side of the story. Everyone's definition of best is different. My best is not going to look like your best, and vice versa. I get that. I really do. But doing your best implies, as per its definition, you are trying to achieve something to the highest outstanding degree. That implies effort. And when it feels like no effort was made on their part, it is hard for me to accept the phrase, they did their best. But then, of course, I circle back to, who am I to define for them what effort looks like? It would not be fair for someone else to define my best efforts for me, so I can't do that for my parents. But I truly feel to the core of my being that if I saw any effort by my parents, that I would feel differently about this. I wouldn't be so stuck. It's an endless, exhausting loop I just can't seem to get myself out of. Because for me, I feel like I have receipts. I have proof of effort. Proof for effort I put into my relationship with them. Proof of what I've done to help myself. And proof for what I'm doing to better myself for my daughter. I have receipts. And what do they have? In my opinion, nothing. But I have to accept somehow that that is just my opinion. I have to make peace with the fact that I cannot change what happened in the past. I cannot change their current effort or actions. I can only change what I'm doing. My mother has said to me before, she doesn't know how to give me love because she was never given it herself. I've tried all my life to comprehend this because I could say the same of my childhood. And yet, from the very beginning, I knew what love was. I knew how to give it, how I wanted to receive it, how I knew I never wanted to treat my future children the way she treated me. How can you not know? I know a lot of bad things happen to my parents, and a lot of the things they do are because those same things happened to them. But they knew how bad it felt for them back then. So how can they not know that it can't feel good for me too? And look, I get it. Trauma is not rational. It's easy for me to say these things and when I am calm, and hindsight is 2020. When people are triggered, people will act out of their survival modes. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. A lot of their actions come from me having triggered them in some way or another. And I see that in myself as well. When I lose control, when my husband and daughter trigger me, I see that in the ways that I respond sometimes. But I'm also talking about the aftermath. Asians are really well known for the silent treatment, for ignoring you or situations for an unknown amount of time, and then coming back to the table as if nothing ever effing happened. That shit is devastating. There is no repair work. There is no acknowledgement. And so every time something happens, you just keep reopening this wound that has never really healed properly. And you just tell yourself that's how it is. And your feelings don't matter. And you shove more gauze or band-aids onto that wound, trying to suffocate it and ignore it and make it go away. But it doesn't go away, does it? How can it? How hard is it to say sorry? To say I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I will try better next time. So hard it feels like my parents would rather do anything else in the world than to utter those words. My husband can tell you when we first met, I never said sorry first. And we've slowly worked our way to me getting better at it, but sometimes he still has to push me in the right direction. I am trying though, and he will agree to that. And that is what is important. That the people you love can see that you are trying, that you are doing the best you can to be better for them and for yourself. I always do repair work when I lose it with my daughter because I never want to make her feel the way I felt. And every time I think about it or talk about it, it brings me to tears because it's the only thing I want. The only thing I need to know that I was or am a good mom is that I do not make my kids feel like how I felt. And even though I know I'm behind the 8 ball right now, mistakes have already been made and will likely continue to be made, I will never stop trying. I will never stop trying to learn how to prevent it from happening again the next time. And when I first started therapy, I really believed I was a terrible mother. And that even though I was trying, that was still not good enough because I was still hurting her. I was still passing down trauma. Even though I'm repairing with my daughter, I know I've hurt her. And to me, that was already a fail in my mission to be a better mom. But I am learning that there is a big difference and that showing up just to say sorry, admit that you are wrong, that means something. It means I am making changes. It means I am doing something different. It means I am giving my daughter and even myself what I couldn't get back then or even now. And it is enough because there is no perfect parent out there. We're all going to make mistakes at some point, and it is inevitable that we will do something that will be hurtful to our child, whether we mean to do it or not. And this is simply just because we are humans. And though I will make mistakes, my daughter will know that it's okay to make mistakes. She can make mistakes too. And despite the mistakes, whether hers or mine, she will always know that she is loved beyond measure. And that's the difference. And so I know how hard it is because I'm doing the work myself. And if I can do it, why can't my parents even try? It's heartbreaking for me that the best answer I can get is that they did the best they could with what they had at that time. And I don't know how to come to terms with that. I haven't spoken to my mother for a long time. It's been basically a year now. And she might forward me a holiday greeting gif or a random text every 4 months or so, but that's it. And I've had comments like, oh, at least she's trying. And I have to be honest, it just makes me mad. Is that trying? Really? A forwarded text that she didn't even write herself? And I'm supposed to think, oh, lucky me. She's trying. She's doing the best she can. I would rather her not send anything at all and leave me in peace so that I don't have to feel guilty and awful every 4 months. And like I said, I can understand she did the best she could back then. But I'm stuck believing that she is doing the best she can right now. My husband says I see it too black and white, that I still see her as someone doing something to me, versus seeing the whole picture of her struggles, her living situation, her health, and that these things just get in the way, and what I get are just byproducts of her trying to survive. They're not her actual intentions that she wants towards me. And sure, I get that. And I don't like calling it thinking like a victim, but it is easy to get stuck in that loop where I feel like all I've ever given them is compassion and understanding. When do I get that in return? What about me? Who is over there saying these things to them? What about my experience? And I don't want to feel shame, guilt, or that I'm being selfish for wanting to think of me. I don't let the hardness of my life get in the way of showing up respectfully and responding back to her when she sends me these random texts, even though she doesn't even reply back to when I respond to her, and that F's me up. I show up even though I'm in therapy and I struggle every day with what our relationship has turned into. But that's kind of getting into the topic of emotionally immature parents, which we don't really have time for that today. I'm slowly starting to see how things come full circle, though. Like I said before, you can't get anywhere with your healing when you get stuck in that place of not accepting. You accepting that they did the best they could is you releasing yourself from them. You're releasing yourself from expectations and all those tangled thoughts of what could or should have been. And unfortunately, just staying there hurts only you, not them. Who is going to give you compassion and understanding? Who is going to tell them what they did was not okay? You are. Okay, so stay with me here. Step 1, we give compassion and understanding. We acknowledge that they were hurt. They had a hard life. They did the best they could with what they had at that time. Step 2, most important and hardest part. Although we have compassion and understanding, we do not excuse or condone the behavior. We are not accepting that what they did was okay. We are not giving them a free pass. How are you going to do that? Well, you start off by allowing yourself to say to yourself and to them that yes, you did your best and it wasn't enough. It continues to not be enough. I deserved, and I still do, deserve better. Which brings us to step 3, boundaries. If you cannot give me what I need in this relationship, then I will need to do X, Y, Z to protect myself, to show myself love, to show myself I matter. we'll dive deeper into boundaries another time. But generally speaking, it's about adjusting how much contact you have with someone if they continue to step over your boundaries, and deciding whether you need to step back from that relationship a little bit or not. And how you do that or what that looks like will be different for everybody. The main takeaway is that your experience is valid. Your feelings and needs matter. They did the best they could, and despite this, it wasn't enough. You deserved better, but you were a helpless child back then who needed and relied on their parents who couldn't give you what you needed. As an adult now, you no longer need to rely on them. If their actions and behaviors continue to hurt you, you have the right to say, I deserve better, I need more, or something different. If this is your best, it is not good enough, and I don't want it in my life. Here's a quick tip on boundaries in case you need something now and can't wait for a more extensive episode. Boundaries need to be clear. Clear in regards to what behavior, action is causing harm, what you need instead, and what things will look like until you get what you need. If you continue to do A, B, C, then I will need to do X, Y, Z to protect myself until you are able to do 1, 2, 3. So to give a little context and to provide an example of how I set up a boundary, I'll share a little bit about my falling out with my mother, Christmas of 2021. So since then, she has given me the silent treatment, pretty much. And that's our common pattern since childhood. She gets mad, she ignores me, and then when she feels like it, whenever that is, she'll act like nothing happened, and that's how we move forward. Well, that doesn't work for me anymore. So after our falling out in Christmas 2021, she ignored me for like 6 months. Yeah, 6 months of emotional hell, and then sent me a random text. And so I replied, and I told her that in order to have a relationship with her, I needed for us to have a conversation about what happened at Christmas, and that I could not just pretend nothing happened. So after I sent that, of course, she proceeded to ignore me for months again after that. And then it slowly became this new pattern of her randomly sending me a text every 3 to 4 months. And I would respond because I didn't want to be rude or ignore her in return, because that's just not who I am as a person, and I didn't need that on my conscience. But then it just slowly turned into a new way of pretending nothing happened, and that did not feel great for me. And it felt like I was allowing her hurtful behavior again into my life. So recently, I finally had to reiterate the boundary. If you continue to not be able to have a conversation about Christmas 2021, then I will have to refrain from connection and communication until you are able to have this conversation. I also told her that I've been trying to be respectful by replying to her periodic texts, but that this dynamic is no longer working for me. So if she's ready for a conversation, then let's have a phone call. And now I'm back to radio silence. Her best right now is that she can't have this conversation. Her best right now is sending me a random text whenever she feels like it, and then not even responding when I reply. And that, unfortunately, is not good enough for me. I want and deserve more. So I have made that clear, and I will continue to bring it back to this boundary if it starts to stray, because I am worthy of taking up space, protecting myself, having my own needs, and I'm worthy of a mutually respectful relationship. And I don't need to settle for less, even if it's my own family. So I think that's enough for me today. I'm feeling that tension and heaviness in my body, and I need to move through it. I'm going to do another cleansing exercise to release that shiz out of my system, and I hope you'll join me. We'll do it a little bit different this time, and you can see which one you prefer. We're going to do a seated cat-cow breathing exercise, and if you know yoga, then you kind of know what I'm talking about. So let's close our eyes, take a deep inhale while arching our back, pushing your chest out, and raising your head up towards the ceiling or sky. On your exhale, drop your head and chest and round out your back. Again, I like to repeat 3 to 5 times, but you do what you like. Then at the end, shake your hands at your wrists and stretch out your arms wide and bring them back to give yourself a hug and squeeze for a few seconds. Release and shake your wrists again. Open wide and cross the opposite arms when you come in to hug yourself again. Repeat as necessary and finish with a deep inhale through your nose and exhale out of your mouth. You probably heard me get pretty worked up and activated in this episode because it's still a work in progress for me. So if you have any tips or if you found a way that has helped you get unstuck from this area, I would love to hear from you. So please shoot me a message on Instagram or send me an email. As always, thank you for sharing your time with me. I would love to connect with you on Instagram at worthyasianpodcast to hear any questions, ideas, or stories you have. And if you'd like a space to be able to share, receive, or give support, please join and help build our community in the Worthy Asian Facebook group. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe, share, or leave a review so more people can find us. I'll be back next Monday. So until then, take care, talk soon, and much love from a fellow Worthy Asian.